There have been so many advocates that have worked so hard for this bill: doctors, nurses, providers, business people, and labor, and so many others. But so it's a little dangerous to choose a few, but I do want to introduce now someone who did a tireless work on this bill, as did the organization, Cassandra Geekus with VPIRG. Cassandra.
Thank you. And wow, it is such an honor to be here today. There are so many people to thank, but I'll try not to turn this into an Academy Award speech and thank everyone on my list. But most definitely have to thank Governor Shumlin, legislative leaders, and all the advocates who helped us achieve this, and I'm grateful to be here with all of you on this historic day. VPIRG is the largest consumer protection and advocacy organization in the state. We represent over 30,000 members and supporters. And our members, like thousands of Vermonters, understand the failures of our healthcare system all too well. And we know that affordable coverage is still out of reach for thousands of Vermonters. The statistics that you've heard about growths in healthcare spending have made it clear that for Vermont, maintaining the status quo is just not an option. Change is necessary for the health of our families, for the communities, and for the state budget. And it's not just Vermonters that are excited about what we're doing today. Citizens, advocates, and decision makers across the country are watching us. First, because we're tackling a problem for cost control and universal health care that no one else has been able to solve in the country. Luckily, we have the resources, the political will, and the ground support to tackle this issue head on. And if successful, we will no doubt change the tone of healthcare discussions and the debate across the country, and help other states feel like this type of monumental change is possible. As many have said, this bill is a first step in a multi-year process, but one of the most important things we're doing here today is laying out a clear vision for where we want to be. And this vision for Green Mountain Care is something that I think most Vermonters are very excited about. Imagine a world where families touched by illness can focus on healing rather than losing sleep over whether or not they can pay their medical bills. Imagine a doctor's visit where you can spend more time discussing your treatment and health than you sit in the waiting room filling out paperwork. Imagine being able to face life's changing circumstances like job, marriage, or illness without being terrified that one sickness is going to send you into bankruptcy. It's really inexcusable that we live in a society where the good people that grow our food, that build our houses, support our children, still do not have access to health care. And I think Vermonters are really hungry for common sense solutions, for reasonable discussions, and straightforward answers to their health reform questions. And that's exactly what this bill does. That's what the governor has brought to the table and the legislative leaders, and we're incredibly grateful for that. So thank you again for the hard work of the governor's office, legislative leadership, advocates, and the thousands of Vermonters. You're the reason why we're here celebrating today. And we must continue down this path with resolve, ingenuity, and the compassion that has come to define almost everything that we do here in Vermont. And VPIRG is not only committed to the success of Green Mountain Care, the state's universal and publicly financed healthcare system, but we're committed to keeping Vermonters informed and engaged throughout the process. If we stay focused, keep our eyes on the prize, I'm confident that Vermonters will have this system. We will all have access to high quality, universal, affordable health care that we can count on, and that our little state can help turn the tide for the rest of the country. So thank you again for everything. It's an honor to be a part of this, and I look forward to both the celebration and the hard work ahead.
Thank you, Cassandra. And now we get to hear from the legislators, a few, who made this possible. Before we turn it over to the legislative delegation here in Vermont, I do want to acknowledge the where my water? The legislative delegation from Vermont, who is working so hard for us in Washington, D.C. for single-payer health care in Vermont. The best congressional delegation in the country, Senator Patrick Leahy, Senator Bernie Sanders, Congressman Peter Welch. Without them and their team, thanks Dave Reynolds for being here from the Sanders office, I got to tell you, we wouldn't be where we are today. I also want to thank President Barack Obama for his willingness to move the federal date of preclusion from single payer from 2017 to 2014. The president gets it. I also want to thank him for his courage in health care, allowing the federal bill to be a bridge to this system. And this is what the president and Bernie and Pat and Peter understand. The states must and should be the laboratories for change and for reform. As long as we're not reducing standards to Americans who so desperately need health insurance. I am grateful to the President and to our legislative delegation for their extraordinary support in this effort here in the Green Mountain State. I now give you House Speaker Shep Smith.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a great day, and it's wonderful to be outside on the steps of the state capitol. I would first like to thank the hardworking members of the House and the House Health Care Committee and the Senate for making this all possible. It's without their work, we wouldn't be here today, and it was difficult work, time-consuming, and required a great deal of political and policy skill. And I think that Senator Claire Ayer and Chair of the House Health Care Committee, Mark Larson, deserve a huge round of applause from all of us. It's amazing that we're here and that we could be debating the fact that there could be something wrong passing a law that creates coverage, healthcare coverage, for all Vermonters. It should be at the very core of what we believe in as citizens. It should be not debatable. It should be a fundamental principle for all Vermonters, but for all Americans. All of the other industrialized countries get it, and thank God we here in Vermont get it too. I would say to those who say this change may bring uncertainty, well, what's it like to face the uncertainty of not having health care coverage at all, or having health care coverage that doesn't really provide you with health care in the first place? That's uncertainty. Yeah. And uncertainty is figuring out, if you're an employer, how you're going to face another 20 to 30% increase in your health care premiums. How are you going to make sure that you continue to provide health care coverage for your employees? That's uncertainty. I can tell you that uncertainty that brings, having sat in many partners meetings at the law firm that I work in, figuring out how we're going to continue to pay for health care for our employees. That's uncertainty. Yeah. And the uncertainty that exists with the payment system that we have now. I don't know if any of you have been looking at any of your health care bills recently or your insurance explanation of benefits, but I have 17 years of education and I can't make heads or tail of it. That's uncertainty. This bill is a common sense start to making sure that all Vermonters have coverage, that everybody's got skin in the game, and that we have common sense payment reform that pays per performance, not for a number of visits. That's what this bill is about. I want to thank everybody here who has worked so hard to get this bill passed, and I want to thank you now for the work that we're going to have to do in the coming years. This is the beginning. This is not the end. We have hard work to do. There are definitely people who want to see this fail. We cannot let that happen. We need to work together to show the way for the entire country. We can do it. Vermont's done it in the past. We'll do it again. Thank you very much.
Hey, we're pretty lucky to have the best speaker and the best president pro tem in the country. That's not bad, huh? I give you my friend John Campbell.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Speaker. I'll tell you, look at this day out. I mean, we've been, fighting 2 or 3 weeks now, solid rain. And then when we're here on the steps of the Capitol, the greatest state capitol in the country, we're graced with this wonderful weather. And hopefully we'll hold off for a few more moments. Let me just say this. My great-great-grandparents came to this country in the 1800s, mid-1800s, and unfortunately, through the years, they decided to leave, and I found myself growing up as a child in Florida. And fortunately, I made my way back here with my family, and I raised my children here. And never in my wildest dreams would I ever have thought that I would be involved in 2 of the greatest social movements of my life, and I think the lives of most people here. The first came when we took courageous stands to say to our brothers and sisters who are gay and lesbians that they are allowed to marry those who they love and care for. At that time, I thought that was the proudest moment of my professional career here in the State House. But I can tell you, today marks a second part of that. And now, to understand, to be here, and to say to you folks that health care is a right that every American, every Vermonter should and shall have, that is important, and that is spectacular. It's easy for us to stand up here and say what a wonderful project this is and that we're going to keep on moving. But I can tell you this, we are not going to be able to do it without your help. The next few years are going to be very difficult. As the Speaker mentioned, there are many people out there that would love to see us fail. We have to look at them and figure out why. Many of them may have insurance companies or whatever. They're afraid that they're going to lose some business. For that, I'm sorry, but I have to look at people who are walking around without health care coverage, who aren't able to get in to see a doctor, who are suffering from cancer and other maladies that they will not be able to get treatment for, just because we have a broken health care system. We can't sit by, folks. We all have to get involved. And we all have to be ready to fight the fight that surely will be coming over the next 2 or 3 years. So I ask you today to make sure you're with us back in next January when we start the second part of this fight. And we will win. We'll win because it's right. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm now going to give you the 2 chairs of the committees that got the hard work done. While they were doing that hard work, they had some assistance from my team that I'm extraordinarily proud of. Anya, Wallach, Rader. I know who's watching. I did the Wallach first.